Hello world, UB here, and today we're going to be doing a follow-up to a video that I put together at the very beginning of this channel called My Depression Doesn't Look Like a Commercial. Back when I first started this channel, I made a video that was very much supposed to highlight the fact that depression can present itself very differently in different people, and I really thought that it was very important that I put it together, and I still think it was important that I put it together, at least for myself and my journey. But since then, in the last year and a half or so, my thoughts on it have changed, and I thought it was really important to talk about that. You know, mental health is a continual process, and it really made sense to me to make a follow-up video. And the truth is, my depression has changed since then. So for those of you who don't know, I actually changed my birth control method about 4 months ago, and I decided that I wanted to try something other than the birth control pill. Part of why I switched up my birth control method was because I wanted to go with a non-hormonal method. The only one that I found that is really widely considered effective is the Copper IUD. So I got the Copper IUD put in March, and it takes about 6 to 8 months for your body to readjust to not having those extra hormones from the pill. Now, there are hormonal IUDs, and that isn't what I got because I wanted the non-hormonal method. If you're looking into birth control for you, for a daughter, for somebody in your life, make sure to understand the distinction because the Copper IUD doesn't have hormones in it. Basically, the copper reacts with sperm differently so that it can't get to the egg, whereas most of the hormonal methods basically just thin the lining of your uterus, as far as I understand it at least. Again, do your own homework, please and thank you. So what does this have to do with my depression, you're probably asking, and the main reason that I switched my birth control was because it's coming out now, and it has been coming out for a while, that birth control pills and hormonal methods can increase your depression. I heard a lot of anecdotal testimonies that going off of the pill, even though it can be very, very tough, actually brought people into a different light as far as their mental health goes. They didn't realize how bogged down they were by these extra hormones in their body. And I've been struggling with depression for a very long time. So I wanted to give it a try, see if after that 6 to 8 month period, my body will readjust, and obviously the depression won't go away completely, but I might be able to find some mental clarity and be able to kind of move on and grow more than I was able to do when I was on the pill. I actually was on the pill for about 9 years, a little bit more. I started when I was 13, and that was to regulate my periods so that they would happen at the same time every month. And I just never went off of it. It was comfortable for me. I was able to take it every day. I only missed a handful of pills in the 9 years that I took it, and I recognized that when I had to double up on a pill, it would make me very nauseous, very sick, and so I didn't want to put something permanent, semi-permanent, I should say, like the Nexplanon bar or anything in my body, but I didn't want to put something long-term in my body and risk it making me sick the way that doubling up on a pill did. So I decided to go with the Copper IUD. My body has had to go through both the quote-unquote withdrawals of the hormones from the pill, and it had to go through getting an IUD put in at the same time. So I've been relatively miserable for the last 4 months, but the last month and a half or so hasn't been as bad, and I've been able to kind of find a happy medium place in my life. Now, I'm only 4 months into my 6 to 8 month adjustment period, so I can't say that there are any definitive differences, but I did want to make this video, and it seemed to relate to my depression video very strongly. So let's walk through how those are linked. So basically, in My Depression Doesn't Look Like a Commercial, I talked about how I tried to put on a smile, how I find different comfort methods that work well for me, from wearing onesies to taking walks, and just trying to feel better in the moment and being very patient with myself and just letting myself feel what I need to feel, take care of myself one thing at a time, and that's basically how I used to cope with my depression. What I've found so far in my journey without the extra hormones in my body is that I have depression fewer and further between, like my bouts come less every month and more sporadically, but the depression definitely sticks around for a longer amount of time, and it's not as far of a dip, if that makes sense. I don't get as deeply, darkly depressed as I used to necessarily, and it hangs on longer. With that being said, my ups also aren't as dramatic, which is kind of cool because it can be a little bit scary when you have a lot of adrenaline pumping and you're like in a creative frenzy. So it's been nice to have that kind of like the peaks of my moods come back down a little bit. But like I said, it's been sticking around for longer amounts of time, and I haven't been able to prepare for it the way that I could with my pill. Basically, what I used to have with my pill was for about 3 to 5 days out of the month, I would be depressed, and it would come with my hormone cycle. And so I basically had a warning system in my body where I knew when my depression was coming up, and I could spend that week doing basically the bare minimum, just trying to get through and cope and take everything step by step. It would always have a light at the end of the tunnel, my cycle would start over, and I would be okay again. Now that that cycle has been interrupted and has been kind of sporadic and weird because my body is readjusting, I haven't had that luxury of being able to prepare for the week or so of depression, coast through it, and get out the other end. Now I really don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel is, and it makes it a little bit weird to navigate. With all that being said, I do want to encourage you to explore your birth control options if that's something that is important in your life. And I so far have had a fairly good experience with the Copper IUD. It was very tough getting it put in. It was a lot of cramps, but I think it's going to be worth it in the long run. It lasts 10 to 12 years, and if I ever decide that I want to try to start a family, it can just be taken out and my body doesn't have to readjust to the hormones like it is right now before I can start trying. So it's a really good option, and I felt that it fit my body and my life very well. With that being said, the side effects are a little bit weird. You know, I've got a lot more body hair happening, which is not my favorite thing in the world. I've got acne that I haven't had since middle school, but I'm getting through it. It'll probably all even out after that 6 to 8 month period. It's just my body's doing what it needs to do to figure out where its equilibrium is. So I guess this video turned out being half about birth control and half about depression, but basically I'm traversing unknown waters now, and I hope to give you guys an update in a couple months. Hopefully everything evens out and I find a way to cope with what I'm doing again, and life is looking good. I just have to get back in the swing of things. So with all that being said, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I really appreciate that you're here. I'll give you 1,000 experience points for making it to the end of this video, and next week I plan on getting back to drawing and all of that other cool stuff. There's a lot of new things in my life that are coming up that I'm very excited for. Join my Patreon if you want to know more about the behind the scenes stuff. You are loved and important, and don't forget to drink some water. I will talk to you next week. Peace.